Now we'll have some fun. Welcome back to Hardball. How strong of a candidate will Governor Rick Perry of Texas actually turn out to be? Well, he certainly caused a lot of excitement since his official announcement on Saturday, but already some of his controversial statements on the trail out there are raising eyebrows. He said, by the way, the greatest threat to the country, the greatest threat to our country right now is the president's spending strategy. God, I thought the Congress had them all wrapped up. What do you mean he has a strategy, by the way? I'd like to know what that spending strategy is, in fact. Here he is. He also said Ben Bernanke, the head of the Fed, might be treasonous if he keeps printing money between now and the election. Well, what kind of a campaign is Perry running out there, and who's he trying to appeal to? Let's go to two people who really know this guy. Wayne Slater's been following his career. He's senior political writer for the Dallas Morning News. And there he is, Jim Hightower, the great radio talk show host, the great populist hero of Texas. He ran against Perry for Texas Agriculture Committee back in 90. You know, Jim Hightower, you could have stopped him right there, but you didn't. He went right past you. Fault. He went right past you on the highway to heaven, and now he's up there running against Michelle Bachmann and Romney, and he may well be the nominee. What will stop him? Will anything stop this guy, or is he just too good, looks too good, is too good politically for people to know what they're up to? What's going on here?
No, once you get beyond the hair, there's the real Rick Perry. And, you know, they say that the higher the monkey climbs, the more you see of its ugly side. Well, Perry's got a very ugly side, and he's going to get a kind of media scrutiny, Chris.
Well, you came to the right place, Jim. Tell us how ugly he is.
Well, he is. Republicans get a twofer with him. One, they get one of the farthest out of the far-out Tea Party right-wingers in Perry, sort of Michelle Bachmann with better hair. And then they get the real Perry, which is the exuberant corporate Republican who never met a corporate lobbyist he wouldn't hug as long as that lobbyist had a campaign check and a wish list. He really is kind of a George Bush plutocrat without the intelligence or the ethics. So that's the real Perry is really going to be the corporate Perry. That's the kind of governorship he has run. For example, he's running around now talking about the great Texas job miracle that he has fostered here. Well, I'm not
what's
sure
all this prayer? What about all these revival meetings and everything? This church tent church stuff he does, and that turns off a lot of people where I come from. They like to keep the politics a little bit secular. Why does this guy start his campaign with this big revival, religious meeting with everybody waving their hands in the air in a very religious fervor? What's that got to do with running for lower taxes and whatever else he's running on, anti-regulation, anti-EPA? What's that got to do with religion?
Well, nothing, of course, but it's his answer to pretty much to everything that involves human beings, the people's needs. We're in an exceptional drought down here in Texas, and he had a 3-day prayer for rain, but God didn't respond. That should send a message to Perry, but he puts on these spectacles, and I don't think they appeal even to religious people. I think Jesus himself said you should pray in private.
Well, Mr. Hightower, he hasn't impressed you. Here's Rick Perry, by the way, talking about President Obama just yesterday in Iowa. Let's listen to the roadshow.
And look, I think the greatest threat to our country right now is this president who is trying to spend our way out of this disaster.
And here he's at the same event. He had this to say about Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, who I think has been saving this country's bacon. Let's listen.
If this guy prints more money between now and the election, I don't know what y'all would do to him in Iowa, but we would treat him pretty ugly down in Texas. I mean, printing more money to play politics at this particular time in American history is almost treacherous or treasonous, in my opinion.
Does this guy know any history? Talking about treating somebody ugly. That's what they did to Adlai Stevenson back in 63. Remember 63 down in Texas? Anyway, treasonous. Keep in mind, Ben Bernanke was appointed by George W. Bush to be Fed chairman. This afternoon, by the way, Perry said he stood by what he said, of course. But a former aide to President Bush, Tony Fratto, tweeted this response to Perry's off-the-cuff remark. Quote, Governor Perry's comments about Chairman Bernanke are inappropriate and unpresidential. I'm sure that'll brush him back. Let me go to Wayne here. Wayne, what do you make of this guy? Is he all hat, no cattle? I'm looking at Jim Hightower with his big Stetson on here. What do you make of this guy? Is he going to sell? Will he travel well?
For a while, certainly to the constituencies he's trying to win over in Iowa. and South Carolina and maybe North Florida and so forth. Yeah. Look, one of the things that people don't, I think, understand, and I know this conversation happened inside Perry's political camp with his political guru, Dave Carney, was it is not enough to make a pitch to a statistically significant constituency, those are the evangelicals and Tea Party activists, but also to be somebody who will take the fight to Obama. That's what Carney said. What people want is someone who takes the fight to Obama. I think a lot of people never figured out that part of Donald Trump's appeal with that vanity candidacy and that nutty stuff about the birthers was that he at least was saying, put me in the ring with this guy Obama. That's what this constituency wants. They want somebody who will fight. And what Perry is doing is telling them, hey, you want a guy who's quick, who fights, who will be there with you, who will stand up against Obama. I'm that guy.
That's how Schumer beat D'Amato up in New York. I remember the Democrats like that, too, Jim. You like that, too, don't you, Jim? You like a fighter. Yeah. So the people on the right like what you want, somebody to go in there and duke it out with a guy they don't like. Is that his appeal? Is Wayne right about this? Okay, go ahead.
I think Wayne is right about that, but it's only going to go so far because you have to have a little bit of smart about it. I mean, this guy has shown in Texas for 10 years that he really knows how to put the goober in gubernatorial, but now he's going to try to put the ugly in presidential, and I don't think it's going to work the same. When you've got even Karl Rove coming out with Perry's comments about Bernanke and saying that is unnecessary and unpresidential, I think you've got a lot of hurt within your own party.
Let's take a look at what Robert Gibbs, who was the president's press secretary, said about him on Morning Joe today. Let's listen.
Just 2 years ago, the governor of Texas openly talked about leading Texas out of the United States of America, and now this campaign has caused him to profess his love for the United States. I think it's a remarkable turnaround, and I think any day now, Rick Perry will probably ask to see the president's birth certificate.
Yeah, I think there is something there, and I mean that, Wayne. I know you're an objective reporter, but I smell birtherism about this guy. His attack on Obama isn't just policy. It's about the nature of the person who's president, it seems to me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I was struck at the response, the Christian prayer rally. I was there for 7 hours watching that extraordinary event. And one of the things that Perry said was there is a dark cloud over America, dark on the skies, and that he presented himself as like this bright light for the future. There is something kind of odd, and really a dog whistle, I guess, is the way we talk about it now, but a kind of a reference that clearly is designed to appeal rhetorically to folks who's going to need in the primary. But you're right, and Jim's right. If this guy is the nominee, then how is he going to turn and pivot and pitch only economic matters and try to not remind people about the secession talk, about the treasonous talk, and about the various other things that he may have said along the way that could make, moderate voters pretty darn nervous.
But Jim and Wayne, he's not even going to get the middle-of-the-road voters till next November. That's more than, 15 months from now. So from now till next November, 2012, he can talk to his own crowd. He can talk to the choir. He can talk to people who are white, who are middle class and better off, some of them. He's not talking to liberals. He's not talking to African Americans or Hispanics or people who do want racial justice in the country necessarily. Who's he going to offend between now and next summer that's going to hurt him? How does it hurt him to be a right-winger?
The 82% majority that says they don't go with the Tea Party right now. The 84% of the people you just said don't trust the Congress either. Yeah. He may be talking to that narrow band of people, but the whole America is listening to what he's saying. And if they don't want to listen, they can just read his book. He's going to get a readership that he did not expect for that book, where he calls for the end of Social Security, the end of Medicaid,
Jim,
the end of federal taxes.
Thanks for bringing it up. Another potential liability, as you point, for Perry is what he said about Social Security and Medicare in the past. Here's what he told the Daily Beast just last fall on the record. I think every program needs to stand the sunshine of righteous scrutiny, whether it's Social Security, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's Medicare. You've got $15 or $115 trillion of unfunded liability in those three. They're bankrupt. They're a Ponzi scheme. So calling Social Security, Wayne, a Ponzi scheme to somebody watching right now this program who's 65 or older and is getting Social Security may not like the sound of it being trashed as a Ponzi scheme. They may say this is a legitimate thing I paid into when I was working for 50 years. I'm now benefiting righteously from it. Stop trashing it. Your thoughts, Wayne?
Yeah, it is absolutely the mode of entry for Democrats in the fall if Perry is the nominee. You hear Democrats talk right now about the Texas miracle really wasn't a miracle, and a lot of low, minimum wage jobs and pollution and so forth and so on. That's not going to work in the fall if the economy is still bad. The question is, the attack on Perry is that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Medicare needs to be changed or potentially abolished, which is not precisely what he said. Raising questions about the Voting Rights Act, saying that it is just a tool for gerrymandering in the South, and the Civil Rights Act, the terms under which we established. This has the look of someone who, when he talks about states' rights, could make some voters, again, very nervous.
Yeah, this could be Bull Connor with a smile. Anyway, thank you very much, Wayne Slater, and thank you, Jim Hightower.